All right, we're doing yet another Kemper video today. This one is going to be all about the liquid profiles. I feel like in terms of the Kemper, I have a lot of catching up to do. I released 3 videos on the Kemper recently. My unboxing of the Kemper Stage MK2 and explaining also why I got another Kemper. Then I did a video where I simply tried to make a profile with my Fireball 25. Then I did a bit of a critical video about something that I found out about the MK2, regarding the new profiling algorithm, which is going to be added in the summer, about the fact that you're going to need to have it hooked up to your PC in order to make those high quality profiles. So that means that you're not going to be able to do that on the unit. If you want to see all that stuff, check it out in my description. You can see it all on my channel. I'm not going to go into all of that stuff today. Today we're just going to have some fun and create a nice liquid profile, because that's something that I'd never tried prior to owning the MK2. Now, I created a profile pack of my Soldano SLO-30, which you can get in my web store, by the way, with a bunch of gray tones, a bunch of sweet spots, going from clean all the way up to super high gain, various shades of gain, various shades of crunch. It came out really well, actually, so I am definitely having a lot of fun with the Kemper platform, more than I was expecting, so that is cool. If you want to check out that pack and my Fireball pack, you can check them out in my web store. Anyway, so I've created that pack already, and now I'm just going to walk you through the process of how to create a liquid profile on the overdrive channel of my SLO-30. The tone that you just heard in the intro is, in fact, my rhythm tone from that pack based on these exact settings over here. And the cool thing about the liquid profiles is that there are basically some amp models pre-programmed in the Kemper, or rather, the tone stacks of those amp models. So when you create a profile, you can sort of match it with those existing tone stacks, if that tone stack is indeed inside of the liquid profile list. And then you can put them together for a more realistic experience regarding how the controls of that model that you create react. So it should react more in a realistic way, because every tone stack and every amplifier behaves differently, right? So that's the idea. And it's fun because it does bring profiles a little bit to the next level in terms of the functionality. Not the tone per se, because as far as I know, the profile tone has the same accuracy basically in terms of the response and stuff. It's just the way the potentiometers react, right? All right, about the signal chain. This is my ESP Edwards LP-CTM with the Gibson 498T in the bridge, which I'm using now. That's going into the Kemper. The Kemper is going into the Soldano via the loop, the SLO-30 on the overdrive channel with some nice settings. We'll get into that in a second. This is going into my Grossmann Fatbox 1x12 with a V30 with 3 mics, 2 SM57s and 1 MD421 Kompakt. Sending those to my mixer where I'm balancing out the levels and all that stuff. Then it's going into my Line 6 HX Stomp for a simple match EQ that I explain in my review of the Grossmann Fatbox 1x12. It's basically some fine tuning to make that ISO cab sound as if it's not an ISO cab. If you want to know more about that, definitely need to check out my review of the Grossmann Fatbox. It's just some little EQ tweaks, nothing to worry about. And then that signal, so the blend of the 3 mics with that EQ, is going back into the Kemper for that full and thick and rich and mix-ready tone. So what you were hearing right now, I'll show you, is one of the presets from my pack. It's the SDS SO30 OD rhythm tone. And again, it sounds like this. Great. I love this amplifier. This isn't even the real amp that you're hearing. This is that profile. And I think that, the Kemper does a great job at emulating this amplifier. So that is cool. All right, so we're going to basically recreate this tone right here. And I'm going to show you how. So click on the 2 profile buttons here, and then we get to the profile assistant. Right now we are on the Kemper amp. So that's the virtual amp that I already did yesterday. And then this is the reference amp, so the real Soldano. One little thing that irritates me a little bit about this process is that when I use the reference amp here, it feels like there is too much latency. It's a little thing, but still it bugs me a little bit anytime I do this process. So the Kemper amp, in this case, this one, feels a little bit more immediate because of that. You probably won't be able to tell in this video, but it's something that I'm noticing in terms of, how the guitar or how the tone responds rather, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is over here, the Kemper amp model, I'm going to choose the tone stack that is based on my Soldano, which is Sold S+L+O overdrive. That's basically an SLO tone stack, right? And then the gain pot reference, we're going to use that to match up the gain that I have set on the actual amp for this tone, which is at about 7.2 or so. So it's going to match up very nicely when I do that. Now the EQ position, I'm going to set that to pre. I think that is, if you're modeling a preamp, a distortion from a preamp rather, that's what the manual said. That's what we're doing, obviously, but you can change that after the fact as well. And the return level is fine. And then when we hit next, we see the tone stack. Now, the funny thing is, all the tone controls on the Soldano go to 11, which is funny. And then in here as well, so if we crank the bass, you can see, you can set it to 11, right? In this case, bass is set to 5, so I'm going to put it to 5-ish. Middle is at 5 as well. And then treble, I have the treble set to, let's say, 6.2. And then presence to, I think, 7.2, which is a nice sweet spot. So now these EQ controls match up with the real amplifier, and that will help for the Kemper to, make it as accurate as possible in terms of how the controls react versus the real amplifier, right? Very cool. Now, we're not going to do a clean tone. We're not going to do a no cab tone. We are definitely going to use my cabinet. The cool thing about the Kemper 2 is that you can just turn off the cabinet and then throw another cab on it, which sounds pretty good, actually. Okay, let's go and start the profiling process. It's going to make those alien UFO noises, as people like to call it. We're just going to wait for a minute until that process is completed. So it's measuring the sweet spot or the snapshot of the amplifier, rather, just the tone we have dialed in now. But because of the liquid profiling, the end result will be much more like having an actual amp model of that amplifier because of the EQ controls and how they react versus the real amplifier. Before they added the liquid profiling thing, it was just a generic EQ that was the same for each and every single amplifier. Now, for most people, that's probably not an issue. But again, the liquid profiling does make it a little bit more realistic. So it's done. Let's take a listen to the result with a simple chord and some chugs. So that's the model. It's not too different, actually. I think it did a great job by default. So refining this profile is going to be a little bit tricky because I've noticed, especially for the heavy riffing, that sometimes refining can make the profile sound less accurate. And in this case, I think it's already pretty accurate, but we're going to try. I also did this in my previous video where I did the profiling. It's something to take note of. With low gain and clean tones, the difference is much better. Much more accurate, but with high gain tones, the refining process can make it sort of more inaccurate. So I'm going to avoid low notes and low resonant chugs, and I'm just going to play some open chords and some higher up chords and some dissonant notes, and then I'm going to stop. So I'm not going to do this for too long. It's not meant to sound pretty. All right, let's see how accurate it is now. That's far from bad. It's pretty good. The Kemper amp now is a little bit more saturated in the low end, actually, than it was before. So before the refining, it might have been a little bit more accurate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it another go. Not the refining, but I'm going to do the profiling again. I'll skip it so you won't have to see it. And then I'm going to do a little bit less refining, see what that does. I'll be back in a second. All right, so we're back and the profile has been made again. Let's check again the accuracy. And that's pretty darn close already. So I'm kind of afraid to do the refining again. It's kind of funny how in some cases the refining process makes the amplifier less accurate. This time I'm going to just do one chord, kind of a dissonant chord. I'm going to hit it really hard and then I'm going to stop. Let's see what that does, all right? I'm quite satisfied with that. Really nice. So now that we're done, we're going to save this profile. I'm just going to rename it a little bit differently. I'm going to say Rhythm 2. And there we go. This is our new liquid profile. And the funny thing now is that this EQ section should behave the same as the real amplifier. So let's just try the EQ controls real quick to see how they respond. So that should behave more accurately than before, than with the generic tone stack. All right, and now we have a profile that is closer in terms of how the EQ controls and how the gain pot responds than the real amplifier than you would get with a standard profile. Now the sound isn't more realistic per se. I mean, this still sounds very close to my actual SLO, as you just heard. Feels really great under the fingers, which is nice. So yeah, this is awesome. And I do like the liquid profile thing. It's not a game changer, I think, but it's a fun addition to the Kemper to make the profiles a little bit closer to the real thing in terms of how the controls respond, okay? It's not going to make your profile more accurate per se, unless you start tweaking the controls. So once again, you can get my SO30 profile pack in my web store. I'll put a link below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'd love to know. And if you want to support this channel in another way, you can buy something in my affiliate links like a Soldano or a Kemper at Thomann or Sweetwater or something at Tube Amp Doctor. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons as well, as that really helps the channel out. I'd really appreciate it. And of course, you can also follow Sonic Drive Studio on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Cheers.